Today it's a very special day in the universe, and it's special in more ways than one. Yes, that's English. It's special in more ways than one. For the simple reason that today it's the 6th of July, and it happens to be my birthday. So all of you can send messages there. Don't just be watching. Send some messages, send some hearts, send some emojis, send me some flowers, and etc. And let's have a celebration together. And I'm so excited again today that I would not want to spend my birthday and enjoy it all by myself. And on my hot seat today, I invited a theologian, a social activist, a blogger, a TV personality, a well-read community leader in his own right, and one of our anchor program directors here on the station of Galaxy Universal Network by the name of Sifiso Mahlangu. And from the surname, I can tell some bit of Ndebele blood runs in him right there. And because I was sitting with the king yesterday, and I got to learn a bit of African culture and African families and etc. But today, to make my birthday special, I want to celebrate all the women in Africa, all the queens in Africa, Woma Kadzi, Woma Kosikazi, and all our women. And I was so happy today in the midst of the day while I took a rest actually, and I just woke up from sleep to come straight into the studio here. So I thought I would take a day off and just rest and not answer much. And while I was resting, phone calls were coming, but this other one came in half asleep, and it was my mother and my sister, calling me, wishing me also a happy birthday. That moved my heart. My family made a cake and a breakfast for me in the morning. I'm excited. I'm happy. What would be life like without women? And on top of that, again, you look at creation the way it looks. I doubt if it's a man who created nature, if it's a man who painted flowers, if it's a man who painted some birds, if it's a man who created fruits. You look at the detail, you look at the paintwork, you look at the femininity of nature. It baffles me when Christianity and other Abrahamic religions actually want to make God a masculine. Men are for war, men are for sharpening spears and swords. And go where a man is sitting and go where a woman is sitting and tell me which one looks nice. There is a proverb that says a man builds a house, but a woman makes a home. Who can doubt that? Impotlo, as long as there's a single bed and two sheets and two blankets, a man is happy to live there. Put a wife there. By the end of 2, 3, 4 years, there's a 4-roomed bed house, and there are beds, there are kitchens, there are stoves, there are bathrooms. And in the bathrooms, there are tissues, there are flowers, there are souls. So I think if you look at the design of creation in its totality, it remains a misnomer for me, for men to want to actually take this whole grand patriarchy thing when it comes to creation and then pile it on God and make. If God is the one who created the universe as it is, that I have no other option. Today in particular for my show, I want to address the feminine side of God as we celebrate the women ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on the show, my lovely and wonderful friend, Ntate Sifiso Mahlangu. And introduce yourself to the audience out there. Who is Fiso? Where is he coming from? What has he been doing? And who are the 3 top women that are in his life?
Well, good evening to you, Marara. Thank you for having me. Happy birthday
There's no stove at the bottom. It's not hot yet.
It's not hot yet. It's going to be lit though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're calling it the Battle of Theologians on social media already. You put me against my theological friends, my white collar friends a few weeks ago, to formulate associations with you. And we're going to get into that conversation a bit earlier. But we want to wish you a happy birthday.
Okay. You can still sing. Once in a while, I can take a song.
We can attempt to sing.
Yes.
It's a milestone for you.
Thank you.
Even in this country, to celebrate a birthday, even in the days of COVID. So I'm here particularly to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
And then as a gift, I will engage you.
Okay.
For the purpose of tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that warm welcome. And but I think later on in the show, I would want us to maybe to really get into the theological space and just have some fun. There's nothing wrong. And for the reason I discuss and I allow theological discourse to happen on the show is because I'm aware that many, if not plenty, of our audience out there are actually into the Christian space. It will be negligent on my part to take it for granted that the issues that we are struggling with are not across the board. But still my question remains, who is Sifiso Mahlangu?
Well, Sifiso Mahlangu is a journalist and a writer. In fact, the executive editor for politics and governance for independent media. That's the largest media footprint in the country, the second biggest on the African continent. With you, I'm a talk show host on this very station, but I'm an acclaimed speaker in this country and outside of the country. I run as Chancellor of the Elijah Institute. The Elijah Institute is a center for discipleship and governance. It's a center for leadership training in Gaborone, in Block 6 in Botswana. I reside in Sandton and Centurion. I'm originally from Mpumalanga, so yes, okay. I'm Ndebele, and yeah, I've read a little bit. Okay. I've read a little bit. Yeah, and that's the profile. The rest of the stuff is on Google. So yeah.
They can find you.
The rest of the stuff is on Google.
You will pardon me. It's my birthday, and it's
available. So I'm Googleable anyway.
You are Googleable. Yeah. You are a subject of study.
I'm a subject of study.
Okay. That's quite good. And sorry for that interruption there from my family. It's my birthday. You know, it's getting a bit hectic, and I'd forgotten to put this small little baby on silence. My apologies to all your listeners out there. Now, I want us maybe just to dive in quickly. I asked, who are the top 3 women in your life?
Top three women, I think, tonight. My mother, my daughter, Nondumiso. And
who is Nondumiso?
Nondumiso is my daughter, 13. And the third one represents a body of women. I don't want to elect one particular woman to represent the third sphere. But it is a body of 3 women. Okay. The third, I think, represents my church women, the elders who raised me, powerful women, or the women of Elijah Institute. I have so many to name. You know, Dima out there in Botswana, they know of my love. You know, the Sitiros, the Mopis, the Mahlangus out there. So the third one, I think it's a body of women. It's a body of women.
Maybe just take us through the three groups of women and what role they've played in your life.
The 3 groups of women. I come from a.
You said your mother, your daughter.
I come from a small-ish family with very strong traditionalist theological roots, to an element of faith, and I think also from the defects of colonization. Correct. Because we find ourselves in a community structure, in a post-apartheid sort of community that was not created by us. The townships were not created by black people for black people to thrive in it, and I grew up in that. You know, I wrote a little bit this afternoon as a return message to Vusi Thembekwayo, and said, you know, you're very nice to be very critical of government, but when are you going to be critical of Magda, of Steinhoff, or the over 80 billion a year that lies uninvested in this country? Where's your focus at, really? So come from the township, wonderful relationship with my children and people who've raised me. The third group represents a body of people I've met in travel, representatives of special movements that I've met in this country and outside, people in the media space, people in the theological space, and I think people who've left a significant impact on my life. And who are those people, you ask? I think they're people who've been rebellious to the cultures and traditions of our time. I have an affection to people who are outspoken, and people who are liberal, and people who are anti a post-colonial era, people who offend whiteness, and people who look at the blemish of whiteness and the structures of apartheid creationism in the face and demand something new. And whenever I find women like that in Winnie Mandela, in Batabile, Dlamini, in Busisiwe Mkhwebane. You know, those are people I find affinity with. Those are people I find those are people I gravitate towards, and I think people I find comfort in association with.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. I like that history. Your mother, your daughter, and the mature seasonal friends and colleagues you have met in your ministry. So you will admit that women have played actually a role in your life.
Women have played a significant role, and this is going to be an interesting conversation tonight, because we're in an era where we've got to find the roles of women. In 2017, South Africa came to just to the brink of South Africa having, or the ANC having, a female president. And many of us continue to ask the question, are we ready? Is the ANC ready? Is the country ready for a woman president? And to many the answer was, have we ever been ready for a woman? As a country, have we been ready to be mothered by women? Has anyone ever asked the question, am I ready to have a mother? Have I been ready to have a teacher who is a female figure? Am I ready to be nurtured by a woman? Why is it in a political dimension that we've got to find de-association with women because they are higher up in societal structures or they exist in the echelons of our society? And so it begs the question tonight, and I'm fascinated by not just the theory of women that I think we're having conversations about in South Africa, but it's women in the social structure, it's women in political affiliation, it's women in business power, it's women as wives. We need to get into that. It's women as sexual beings. It's women as wives to husbands. It's women who receive the lobola and have a conversation to who then holds the power, the patriarchal movement of saying, well, you're my woman because I paid for you. You know, we're seeing the flyers and the posters say, protect our women, and a class cloud of those women are saying, just say protect women, don't say protect our women. And I think those are interesting conversations.
On that one, my second question would be, I'll phrase it, but let me start with the first one, of our women. And women, I actually said in one interview with one of the feminists, and she said to me, no, don't refer to us as our women. And in a satire and a joke, I said to them, but you will not find any woman who does not mention my child, who does not mention umuntu wam, who does not mention my man. What is it when it comes to men now responding back to women? Women don't want to be referred to as ours because it itemizes them and it makes them objects. But when women are looking at us and they say, my child, my husband, umuntu wam, we have learned, and men have never complained about being owned by women. What makes women uncomfortable when men make the same claim over them?
I think, you know, the introduction of feminism brought special rights to women, or some women found that feminism was an element of protection. But what feminism did is it introduced a type of whiteness and a type of serial order to say, you know, she is the woman, let her roar. And that was never the African custom of women. It had always been our innate culture to protect women and love women, not from a sense of ownership, but when
belonging.
When umama phethe izinto ehlete kusina phethe ama plastic aphume Shoprite, angithi nawe insizwa uyakuyena uthi ithi ngikuthwalise mama. You don't say, oh, umama kabani loyana. You know, where you don't say where are her sons, let them care. You know, that becomes my role. That is her son. So why do we, when we want to refer to women as ours, and by the way, when I refer to my daughter, I say mine, because she's mine. So every woman was fathered by a man. Therefore, when we speak collectively,
every man
was mothered. So when we say our women, theologically speaking, historically speaking, anthropologically speaking, it is not wrong to say our, because we were part of creationism. We are part of the making, the biological makeup of women. And some argue that, you know, we don't want to be referred to as our because we don't want the stigma of coming from a man. But who else is born if not born from a man and a woman. So, you know,
it goes back.
So,
if I come out of you, then I am you.
Then
and
if I come out of you, then I am you.
Yeah.
And you've got a sense of claim and a sense of ownership to say.
And plus genetical connection.
Genetics, you are our women. And the scope of women's rights and protectionism should not be claimed to feminism. We all have a claim to protect women. And it's not to protect women romantically when we say our women. It's to protect elder women. And we've got a role to play there because they are our grandmothers.
While he's on that, we have a beautiful show with Ntate Sifiso Mahlangu here. And I'll push the debate to a higher level as a modern man as to how he's responding to the modern women also. But be reminded that on Wednesday, I'll have a woman sitting on your chair who is going to respond to what you are saying. Because I want these two views to be paralleled. I've just identified another professional woman somewhere who is in a typical role space, who is watching the show as we are talking. And on Wednesday, she will come and sit on your chair there and go through some of the issues that you are beginning to debate. And the debate and the conversation I want us to have today, how do you think women are dealing with power?
The power of women is an intricate subject because the physiological design of women differentiates them with men so far as strength and power is concerned. The design of women is different to the design of men because men have a penetrative organ. And so the man usually is the one who announces the first word. Yabon? Ngiyakuthanda ungibani igama lakho, uhlalaphi. He's usually the one to announce it. He's usually also the one, and often he should be the one to say, I want to marry you. I don't think it's women who say to the men, I think it is time for you to marry me, or I want to be married by you. And they've got this penetrative organ, which is also very sexual, because the man rises and enters the women. And that creates, a reform, structural reform, because women themselves then cannot say, I am doing the man. Those are different power techniques. So women have their power and men have their power. I don't think we should, in this country, in any country, customarily speaking, culturally speaking, want to take the role of women and replace it with men. And though women are dealing wonderfully with power, we must speak against women who want to take the role of men in our society.
Wow.
When it's Mother's Day, all of us say happy Mother's Day to women. But when it's Father's Day, there are some women who deserve a happy Father's Day because you are a single mother raising 3 kids alone. No, when you're a woman and you're raising 3 kids alone, it doesn't make you a man. It just makes you a woman who's raising 3 kids alone. It makes you a single woman, it makes you a divorced woman, it makes you a successful woman, whatever. But it doesn't make you a man. So the role of women is identified by women. It's identifiable by women. It's beautiful, it's voluptuous. And women need to harness that. But they shouldn't remove their power to be like men.
What's your opinion on these women when they become executives in positions of power? Then they do the high masculine man thing, where it's now flat shoes with a small heel, tight trousers, a jacket. Some even go to an extent of a tie and short hair, a briefcase in their hands, and they walk into the boardroom as the CEO or as the director.
Here's the power verse. This is a position, not a lifestyle. A position in air travel is that you put on the hat as a captain. But when you get home, your children don't address you as Captain Marar.
Mama.
You're not Captain Maponga when you get home to sit with your children. You're Mama and Papa. Now that role should not be because you are the CEO of a large corporate and at home you become CEO-like because you are the chairman of a board or the chairperson of a board, and you run the audit. They run the audit committee. Those are roles that society gives us. The roles of society change.
I want to ask you a very personal, very serious question. Do you think the modern executive woman represents women in the boardroom, or she goes there to emphasize the masculine, patriarchal, male body of men?
There's an issue, I think, in our society where women believe in order to play in a male dominated industry, I've got to be as hard as men. I've got to have, you know, testosterone power. I've got to speak with men. And society must look down upon that, because then we are saying the opposite. If men work in feminine or what is considered, you know, in inverted commas, feminine industry, where a man runs a hairdressing shop, do we expect the feminine tendency? It shouldn't be. This is a role. It's not a definite mark. It's not a societal order. It's not a death sentence for you. It's a 9 to 5. When you return home, you can be a top cop as a commissioner of police and give an instruction to men and men obey. But when you come to the Mahlangu household, you leave the commissioner's door in the state's car outside, and you come and you cook dinner, you become a wife. Regardless of the fact that you make more money.
Wow.
And regardless of the fact that you are in a senior position of a hierarchical order in your workplace. The household is not an executive office. We have roles to play in society, but when we enter our doors, and in particularly our homes and our bedrooms, it is men and it is women.
You are hearing it from Sifiso Mahlangu here, from the boardroom to the bedroom, that let women and men all work in their roles and work and function and find a common meeting place. My guest today is Sifiso Mahlangu. We're discussing the role of women on my birthday month here. I just want to take a small little break and drink some water. While we are coming back on top of the show, I want to explore the political issue that you mentioned. And the first question on the other side will be, what do you think a woman would do, particularly in South Africa? Had we had a female president, what is it that we would have done, which the male energy within our political parties is failing to achieve? Don't go away. We'll be back right after the break.
The coronavirus outbreak.
Experience the extraordinary.
Tremendous waste and tremendous fraud. Mexico is, in fact, you will soon find out.
It is a day to celebrate.
We don't approve at all what's going on.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily unusual.
Challenge your ordinary.
Not only the government, the municipality here has had no plan.
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat.
Hello. Being a legal practitioner in South Africa in these challenging times demands lawyers that will help clients beyond legal issues. The ever-changing demands in commerce and tourism require lawyers who have sound and clear business and commercial knowledge, and that's where MB Chabangu Incorporated comes in. Our business, mining, tourism, health, labor, and economic knowledge encapsulated with law and litigation experience gives us an advantage in the legal sphere. Our experience in assisting businesses, government, and various industries with their needs puts us amongst the many progressive and striving law firms in South Africa. Now, to contact our attorneys for assistance with any of the mentioned fields and others, please call us on 012-341-4187 or send us an email on admin@chabangu.co.za. MB Chabangu Incorporated, where problems meet solutions.
Welcome back to your show here with Maponga J on your program Sankofa, looking backwards at the future. An interview with Ntate Sifiso Mahlangu, who is taking us through some basic conversation in terms of the role of women, the history of women, and where we are coming from for us to be able to appreciate the role of women. But as you're looking at, let me make the second question, the first question. How do you see the role of women evolving from the time immemorial that you might know to the past of apartheid to where we are now? What do you think has been happening in the space of women? I'm not saying women are the only one who are evolving. Men are evolving, the society is evolving. But particularly if you can focus it on our women, what do you think are the cardinal key things that you can visually, emotionally, psychologically see as having changed from the women that our fathers married and our grandfathers married to the women who are now driving 4x4s in Senton and they become our wives apparently?
You know, Bishop, the role of women was injured first by colonization. And where I want to draw some narratives is this, and then take your point. It's that in the 40s and 50s in South Africa, black women were given specific roles. This is where you live and this is what you do. You will not do this job. This is the job you'll do. So the specificity of
that's Bantu education.
In Bantu education was given more to women than men. In fact, the introduction of, you know, the coloring agents, you know, the hair stretching was a signal to women that you are not enough and you're not beautiful the way you are in your blackness and in your melanin. You've got to go to extraordinary heights to try and find yourself and try and make yourself look more appealing to get a man. Because, you know, whiteness teaches us that, you know, the thinner you are, the lighter you are.
And you want to look like the woman, where your husband is working.
Because to them, that's beauty. To the class school of colonization, that's what beauty is. That is the status symbol that our daughters, when they, you know, go through the pages of a magazine, that's what they see. So the role of women in South Africa right now may still be backward because of the trajectory that women are against. And the deepest threat to women necessarily is not men, but it's other women. It's that in their female sense, women cannot simply say, I believe I have the God-given ability to do it and I'm going to do it. It's that they've got to identify themselves according to the class model, to the norms of a disjunctured society, of a colonial status, and say, unless this is what I look like, I will not be acceptable. I'm not going to get a husband because you know, I've got to, we've reached the level where there's, you know, implants, where you do, you know, boob changing and whatever. And that is an issue of women. It is an issue of likeness. Because we've taught women that you are not okay being the way you are.
You're raising something very fundamental. Do you feel our women are pressured by society, by media, by religion, by politics to function and look in a certain fashion?
Women are under pressure right now in South Africa because of three things. Women are under economic pressure because they must meet the demands of society, because there's a thing we call trend. The trend in this country and everywhere else in the world,
slay queen,
you know, it defines women. That's, you know, every season has got a trend. And who needs to up the game for the trend? Women in particular. There's a new color in trend. There's a new season. You know, there's a new designer in trend. And women need to meet that. The second is the social influence. A social platform like Instagram is a ministry to women. If younger women sit down and they look at, you know, the Kardashians of the world, you know, it's a surreal life. It's a surreal view. It's an emoticon of what women want to become, you know, the views and the gestures and the car. You've seen the moves and the bubbly that's posted on the tables. It's a status symbol, you know, it's a message. It's, you know, like when a young woman goes through the pages of Instagram, it's like Beyonce is sending her, please call me, please call. You know, please come up here, you become like me, join me, you know, join me up here. This is the lifestyle the Kardashians have become. And number three, it is the law and order for women that is created by law in this country. It is to not interview women and men in the same order. It's a type of BEE and affirmative action structure, is to give men better opportunities. In South Africa today, we're considered the most unequal society in the world. And do you know who makes the more money, Bishop, 26 years into democracy? White men. After white male figures. After white men, it is white women. After white women, it is black men. After black men, then only do we go to black women. The most unequal society in the world. Now judge where we've put women. Look at the NEC and judge how many women are there. Look at cabinet, and as far as we've come, look at how many women are there. Look at the top 6, and we've got 1 woman out of the 6 there. So there are patriarchal laws, they are establishment, they are embedded, they are enshrined, and no matter how we preach about it, the ANC, which is the advocate of impartiality and women's rights and affirmative action and equality, goes to conference and they drop from 2 women in the top 6, and now they have 1, and they come back and sing the same tunes again. Number 3, the laws of the land, they are enshrined, they are embedded in our thinking. If you have to choose someone between men and women for jobs, and there are sociological reasons, there are custom reasons to that. We've been, myself have been part of conversations where one considers, if I hire this guy and this woman, she's likely to be pregnant in a few months' time, it's going to be an issue, you hire the guy. She might not be able to drive at night because she's a woman, you hire the guy. So, there are issues, there are pressures against women. There are dire risk factors against women, even in organizations.
Which filter back into the society again, not making it safe for women. Because when a man is once ahead of a security company, and you must be running into dangerous zones and etc. Again, you're already dealing with a dysfunctional community. And then you take a vulnerable member of the community who becomes a woman, and you place them there. So it becomes segregative in its own way. But again, I'm aware of that big circle. But I want us to come back.
Where I've done, and in the organizations I've been a part of, I've been very vocal to say, if we raise a conversation about, men or women, and somebody says, well, women is going to be, this one was going to be pregnant, and I said, well, because women fall pregnant. That's just as simple as that.
But the laws of the land will say,
but the laws of the land,
4 months, 6 months, 1 year before you are actually.
So as much as our ruling elites, as much as government talks about it.
Let's speak it here. Because now what I'm saying is, we have a law that says you must have 3 months intention, and at least you should have worked for so many months before you can get pregnant. That's already marginalizing them, because there's no man who receives a similar rule that you must be functional for so many months before you get pregnant. Men are not. So you already find
given that.
So women are already coming at a point of desire.
Already, I think that that's depriving to women, and it's a case to take up. Because we've got a constitutional court, we have thinkers like you and I. We need to be having these conversations, and we need to bring government to account and use the judiciary to that order. It's things that we haven't done, but we need to be having a conversation for women to say where I
was pushing to is, now we have women who become executives in organizations, and when they sit in those positions of power, they become totally naive. They become complacent to the plight, the problems that fellow women are facing.
And here's the answer. It is because the women climb to those positions believing that these are positions for men, and they go into those positions believing they will hold them if they act and behave like men. And that's what we must shine upon. We must allow women to enter
as women.
It must not be a trouser game.
Look at this one nicely. Why is it complicated for a woman who has got a baby child to come to work or ask for breastfeeding breaks within an institution like a big insurance company, like a big banking company, like a government? Here's our honorable minister, she's pregnant, she's got a child. All of a sudden, when you become a minister, it's like it's unprofessional to breastfeed. It's unprofessional to bring your child into the place of work.
And this is where the 21st century corporate establishment must go. It must provide safe care for children. when I take my children to work often, there must be a center for children because it makes us more productive as men. It makes women more productive to know that the kids are fine and she can walk downstairs to the creche and look, okay, they're okay, and go up and work. There needs to be every hour, 5 minutes or, you know, a feeding break. People spend more time doing cigarette breaks and coffee breaks during work time, and we don't want to allow women to breastfeed. In a neutral system, in a progressive mindset, in a 21st century, organizations, the CEOs who are listening must say, you know, you bring your child.
We have a model of Google. Google, you just build up a business unit where there's dry cleans, there are creches, there are primary schools, there are whatever, within the same building. So you come to work with your washing, you come to work with your child, you come to work because they've created an environment where for you to be productive as a worker, your clothes are being washed and laundry is happening, kids are in class downstairs and etc. And within the same space, sort of thing.
We must be very solution-based, and I know organizations, some have offered gyms inside, which have been very nice, and as much as we've had coffee shops, others, you know, in our organization we had a clinic inside where, you know, there was a counselor ready on standby. All of these things are a model that we should subscribe to. We cannot exist in the 21st century and still behave
run businesses like
and you know, and want to run businesses like in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, as if we don't know what we're up against.
Let me throw this one up your face. Had we had a female president, had we had a female leader in the country, or if we are to have a female leader in the country, what sort of practical differences and changes will it make that we have a woman leading vis-a-vis that we have a man that is leading?
The women would probably have removed her, because the issue of women wanting to pull women down is worse than men wanting to pull
that one is taken. That one is taken.
Down.
Most likely women would die in the hands of other women.
Yes.
But on a positive note, had we, could we, should we, when we have a female leader, what sort of feminine energies or feminine policies or feminine advancements, adjustments, do you think will happen in a country?
We've had a female deputy president in this country for 9 months. We've had Balegambet for 9 months in the time Kgalema Motlanthe was the president. Then when Zuma was axed, we had Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka as the deputy in Zuma's replacement. I don't know how much was done in terms of policy amendment, in terms of the, you know, the upheaval of women's rights and the transformation of equality so far as women are concerned. The empowerment of women must not be a talk shop, and often it is. It is that we are going to do this and this is what we shouldn't do, but it's never done. It's never given practical alignment. And it's not just at the top. It's us as parents at the bottom, because, you know, I always subscribe that after we eat, for instance, that it must be my daughter who washes the dishes. Why? Because she's a girl, you know, and I then assume Unati can sit and watch cartoons while Ndumi washes the dishes. We must break down those silos.
Family functions.
You know, we must break down those silos from a very young level and teach women that they can operate at that level without becoming boys, but they can be very successful girls and become very successful women. In a leadership structure, in an executive structure, I think a lot would have changed. You know, women would find a lot more comfort. Women would find perhaps more safety in the streets. But Bishop, this is the point I hasten to make. It's putting women in positions should not be cosmetic. We mustn't think that we are changing society simply because the minister is a woman. In the 90s, when we were speaking transformation, my father made a very good point often and said, when we talk about transformation, we're not saying remove the white people and just put black people in the front, because that's just cosmetic. We must deal with the structure of the economy. Don't just give us a black teller and put a black face in the bank and give us a black minister and then we think, oh well, there's transformation. Transformation must be at a policy level. It must be at a structural change level. It must change the means of production.
I want to ask you a question. Do you feel, is it your assessment that the Constitution is actually anti-women?
I don't think the Constitution is anti-women. I think the implementation of the ANC policy in this country does not protect women, and it does not subscribe to put women up in the line from where we are as the most unequal society in the world. I think this country and this constitution, and it is called, for some reason, it's called the most progressive constitution in the world, and that's another debate I'll have with you. We put this constitution in a structure, in an equilibrium with countries like Holland and countries like Switzerland and Netherlands. A woman is not raped in Switzerland. In China, a woman walks from class at 12:30 at night and walks to her room, and she is not touched, she is not groped. She goes to the subway with her cell phone and her handbag with money, and no one picks it up, and she's not harassed. So we cannot be fighting this country, the most unequal, on the same slate as though. So whilst the constitution is okay, the implementation of policy and the apprehension,
the quality of people who must implement that policy,
and the apprehension of this implementation cannot be as it is done in Holland and in Switzerland, because often we forget that our colonization was that of a special type, because those who colonized us are still here. By the way, they still own the means of production. So when you must
demasculate the masculine.
So when you want to transform this economy, you've got to radically do so. You can't say, well, we are implementing the rules of the Constitution. It's got to be done radically, because the inequality in this nation is gross, and having a well-written document doesn't change inequality. There needs to be radical and robust interaction, not just debate, implementation.
Wow. You can hear it from here for yourselves, and this is Ubabu's Sifiso Mahlangu here taking us through some paces, some conversations around equalities, inequalities, racism, colonialism, and the role of women within our society. But right after the break, I want us to move further into the commodification of women and tap a little bit on creation issues, and here and there some little tweaks in terms of how has the African starting to deal with nudity and our women in the 21st century. After the break, with my host here, Tate Sifiso Mahlangu, on Sankofa program, your host Maponga J.
coronavirus outbreak.
Experience the extraordinary.
Tremendous waste and tremendous fraud. Mexico is, in fact, you will soon find out.
It is a day to celebrate.
We don't approve at all what's going on.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily unusual.
Challenge your ordinary.
Not only the government, the municipality here has had no plan.
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat. Experience the extraordinary.
Feeling is there that, you're doing something special.
Have you lost it? Move! Stop being so dramatic, Mira.
Challenge your ordinary.
Why don't you start a dance class?
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat. Challenge your ordinary. Experience the extraordinary.
Not only the government, the municipality here has had no plan.
Now, I believe that my peace is my most valuable asset.
Absolutely beautiful! This is exactly what I was looking for! DJ Khaled!
It is a day to celebrate.
We're ready for action.
I like it when it's nice and soft. That is nice.
How was it like growing up in Nigeria? Yes, sir, you know what it is.
Feeling is there that, you're doing something special.
Stop being so dramatic, Mira.
You should just be what you want to be.
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat.
From rural to urban, we bring you local and international sport.
From Cape to Cairo, from Nairobi to Kinshasa. As we stand out amongst the rest. And we are here to inspire you.
From the Horn of Africa to the Equator's indigenous people.
Galaxy Universal Network. Abapenyi bezindaba nezintatheli ezingesabilutho. Bila woga, upendeleo, hatuogopi chochote.
Channel 500 on StarSat. This is Galaxy Universal Network.
Welcome back on this special edition of my birthday on Sankofa here, celebrating life and the role of women in our lives. And I've been happy to be hosting for me and with me, Sifiso Mahlangu, discussing the issue and the roles of women within the society. And while I'm sitting here thinking I'm becoming intelligent, my wife decides to walk in and bring a cake. You guys are too far. You can come through. You guys are too far from where you are. You should have been in studio here and be able to enjoy this small little gift together with us and the birthday cake. And I would want to maybe ask that we sing a small little. We give them a chance, and you can lead the song.
Oh,
and,
really?
Yeah.
Live on TV. Okay.
Yes, sing a song. Sing a stupid little bit low.
So happy birthday, Bishop Maponga. So it's the birthday of Jay this evening. And his wife has come in to bring him a cake.
And my daughter also.
Yeah, and she's somewhere there at the back, and the family has come. And it is to say happy 51 years. We hope to see you 51 years later at the age of 102. Yeah, and may Yeshua bless you all the more. May you have more days, more melanin days under the African sun. So let's sing.
Let's sing. It's used to sing, not for me.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Maponga. Happy birthday to you.
Hip, hip.
Hooray.
Happy birthday, Chikaramboko. Kanya Shoko. Happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much, thank you very much. That was, you know, exactly as we are saying, that to men it's just about going to work, standing around and making a few noises, but when women are there, you have a chance of having cakes, having puddings,
and getting kissed live on TV.
You know, that kind of thing.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
That kind of thing.
Give us your closing remarks. I have another guest that is coming quickly.
I think it's interesting that you've made this for your birthday. It shows that it's an interesting point for you in your life, and it's true that Africanism first promotes the rights of women. It protects women. In the old African hut, the man goes in first. And it was not patriarchal as the Westerners wanted to make us believe. It was so that if there was a snake or a lion or an intruder inside,
it must eat the man first.
It must eat the man first. And so women shouldn't become men. They shouldn't desire to take over men. We want them in their most feminine way, in their loving kindness, in their generosity, in their voluptuousness in Africa. We desire that. But they cannot be equal to men. They can perhaps be greater than men. But we're not here to compete. We're here to complement each other.
Wow.
To the ultimate glorification of God's people, to build a fair, non-sexist, non-violent Africa where the land is returned.
Wow, you cannot get it better than that. Put some hearts, show some love for our guest here, and that is Sifiso Mahlangu. We'll be back after the break shortly, and we'll be able to interview our next guest, who is on standby also to give us another perspective as far as men in the 21st century are concerned in their relationships with their partners in the terms of building homes and reasserting and affirming the role of African women within the African society. Your program is Sankofa, your host Maponga J. After the break, we'll be right back.
The coronavirus outbreak.
Experience the extraordinary.
Tremendous waste and tremendous fraud. Mexico is, in fact, you will soon find out.
It is a day to celebrate.
We don't approve at all what's going on.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily unusual.
Challenge your ordinary.
Not only the government, the municipality has had no plan.
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat. Challenge your ordinary. Experience the extraordinary.
Not only the government, the municipality has had no plan.
Now, I believe that my peace is my most valuable asset.
Absolutely beautiful! This is exactly what I was looking for! DJ Khaled!
It is a day to celebrate.
We're ready for action.
I like it when it's nice and soft. That is nice.
How was it like growing up in Nigeria? Yes, sir, you know what it is.
Feeling is there that, you know, you're doing something special.
Stop being so dramatic, Mira.
You should just be what you want to be.
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat. Experience the extraordinary.
Feeling is there that, you know, you're doing something special.
Have you lost it? Move! Stop being so dramatic, Mira.
Challenge your ordinary.
Why don't you start a dance class?
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat.
Your host for tonight on your show, Maponga J. The program is Sankofa here on Galaxy Universal Network, where we're discussing the role of women within the greater society and the movement and the development of the female roles within our greater society. And just when I thought I was about to conclude with Untatu Sifiso Mahlangu, one of our awaited guests, Untate Prince Kosana, walks in and greet the guest quickly at home and tell them who you are and where you're coming from.
My name is Prince Kosana. I come from Pietermaritzburg. Happy to be here, of course.
Nice to have you, Kosana. Nice to have you, Kosana. As far as you're concerned, you want to talk to us about the role of women in building industry. Yes. What do you want to tell the nation out there?
Actually, to me, I've found out that a lot of women do a lot of exorcism on the men, on the duties of which men should be doing in terms of, you know, supporting children with the industrial sector. So I have kind of conflict on that, because the men are the ones who are supposed to be there.
Doing industry.
Yes.
So what do you think is the role of women in terms of building industries?
The role of women in building industries, I mean, we have kids to worry about, that you have to get safety, that you have to get a strong spiritual growth and manhood of an African being. So a lot of time has to be spent on the kids that are coming after us. To me, I think that...
So you're actually advocating that we need to reduce the role of women on the industry, so that we focus at the next generation rather than forcing or putting pressure on our women to join the industry?
Not necessarily, no. I wouldn't say that, but I would say women need to get everything that they deserve in a comfortable way, which allows them at least to have some space to grow our children, at least to that stage where they can have that mentality of building a nation. That is what I'm concerned about.
Okay. Yeah. This Kosana is bringing quite some interesting curveballs on me here. Without admitting that he wants women slightly on the other side, but in the back of the head, he's actually raising critical points where he's saying to us that the bringing up of the next generation is as important as the men who are doing industry. And when we take our women away from their role, so to speak, and we push them into industry, there is a gap there in terms of bringing up the children. What advice would you be giving a modern couple out there, a young man and a young woman who have just been married, and you want to give them some advice as to how should they treat and deal with their own challenges, particularly in terms of employment and bringing up children? What would be your advice?
Actually, it's more of the growth within the society of the African people. It's the growth and the communication and the strength of men having respect towards each other and having a vision of building something which can make obviously the women, because in Isintu we say abantu abetu, not because we try and manifest this physical power between us and women, but we have a duty, like you say, to protect women because they hold the growth of us.
Again, as much as you're saying to protect women, but the still question remains, protect them from who? If we are talking about males and females living in a society, are we protecting women from lions? Are we protecting them from hyenas? Are we protecting them from the sun? Or we are protecting them from ourselves as men?
Actually, we have a lot that's going on here in Africa. We've got this industrial system that takes the women out of the house to give them certain visions and perspectives, and we have this society of men not being responsible for the growth of the community. So I think it has more to do with the psychological part of the men, which I feel they are not as strong as they are supposed to be.
Okay, I think we have heard it from Tate Prince Kosana here, giving us quite some strong views there as to what he thinks the society must move towards. And on your show here, we bring real people who are discussing the issues as they see them. And we say zero tolerance, zero favor, zero anything. We take all views, and every person on Galaxy Universal Network here has an opportunity to express themselves as the way he sees it. And according to Mr. Kosana here, it's important that the role of women must not be overcrowded and overburdened with too many of the masculine duties that remove again and creates a gap between the growing up of the children and the building up of the homes and the expectations of other women, the cleaning up of the plates, the looking after the home, the washing of the dishes, the washing of the clothes, the ironing. And after doing all these things, you must still worry what are people going to eat and how are people going to be sleeping in the night, and while men are sitting around and reading newspapers. Maybe something to learn here in the 21st century. On Wednesday, I'll have another woman, one woman coming in to address particularly on what she sees as a woman dealing with men. Because in the midst of us developing government policies, which are now pro-women organizations and giving women equal opportunities, when we give them equal opportunities, is the government and institutions of power prepared to make the workplace equally comfortable for the women? Because when the woman is coming, she's coming with everything that she has. She's bringing her home, she's bringing her worries, she's bringing her children, she's bringing her breastfeeding, she's bringing her monthly cycles, she's bringing her pregnancies, she's bringing everything into the workplace. So the real question maybe we need to start discussing from governments, non-government organizations, and other parastatals and non-government institutions will our policies be ever ready to start dealing with the involvement, true involvement of women in terms of their occupation of positions of power within government circles? And second question, when our women, and they don't like that word our, but they call us our men, when our women come into roles of power, do they come here to represent the real issues that women are dealing with, or they come here to replace the men? And we end up having women in executive powers who are now also acting like they are equally masculine as the masculine institution is, in terms of them being insensitive to the female issues that are happening there. And here on your program, Sankofa, your host is Maponga J. And thank you very much to Mtades Kosana, who has popped in. And thank you very much to our guest, Sifiso Mahlangu, who has come in also to share some few moments with us in terms of having a conversation on the development and protection of women within the society. The challenges are real. And I think that if we had more women in power, we would have less war. We'll have less of this masculine thing of buying guns and shooting each other. Because when you build a house, and the woman will make it into a home, then I think it's high time that we, as Africans, we look back where we're coming from on Sankofa, because our women have constantly become the source and the pillars of building a community, installation of kings, the healing centers, the cooks in the families, the comforters in the families. They are there. There's no ceremony that happens in Africa, and women are not involved in those ceremonies. They remain the key pillar and the driver in the preservation of the culture of every society. For that reason, we say, Amambokodo, Abafazi, Amakosikazi, Bomama, Amakosikazi. These are the king makers, Kosikazi, the one who gives birth to a king. There's no king who falls from the sky. Every king must be born, brought up, and educated by the feminine and by the women. Women are the energy that we need to start converting our government policies, our institutional policies, and our organizational policies. Your host is Maponga J. Chigaramboko mwana wa mchena marara chibuchitedza chino kwigwana wana manga walipedwa no tamba nacho. Chirara na wana bebanji wana chigarama uke matanda novora wira miti ya sose chiramba kusesera mpona ngokubewane macha kumagaro. Wacherevu mangura na wapfuli vayo wira miti ya sose. Until we see you again on your show, Sankofa, have yourself a wonderful evening. Buy some flowers, buy some chocolates, do something nice, show some love. Until we see you again on Wednesday, same time, your host Maponga J. Have yourself a wonderful evening.